Welcome to the State of Industrial Hiring Live. I'm Hallie. I'm head of customer onboarding here at Factory Fix. And for anyone who is not familiar, Factory Fix is a recruiting platform, and it's purpose-built for manufacturing and skilled trades. We help companies fill roles like welders, CNC machinists, maintenance techs, quality and production operators as some examples. Expect in my role as head of onboarding, as I'm talking with all of our customers, I hear firsthand what the hiring landscape looks like for manufacturing teams and recruiters. And the number one thing that I hear right now is that the available labor does not always equal job-ready labor. As you guys know, the more technical the position, the smaller the qualified pool of talent gets. The reality is right now that unemployment in manufacturing sits at 3.1%, which means that 97 out of 100 workers already have a job. So when you need to post a machinist or a maintenance tech role, there is a very high possibility that the people you are looking for are probably already working somewhere else. And that's just the constraint of the market today. So we kept hearing versions of that story. And today we're bringing together a couple people who have created very strong outcomes despite this problem, despite lean teams and limited budgets. And that's what makes these panelists today so worth listening to. So I've got Amanda Elkins with me today. She is the entire recruiting function at Hirsh Precision Products. So every requisition, every screen, every hiring manager conversation runs through her. As her company shifts toward even more advanced manufacturing work and machining work, her talent pool gets even smaller. I've also got Ashley Vogel here from Innovative Machine Specialists, a custom job shop in Marshfield, Wisconsin. She's got 2 facilities, multiple competitors for the same candidates within a few miles of her building, and is responsible for filling every open role. So both of these powerhouses have made some real changes to how they source and how they screen candidates over the past year. And that is what we are going to get into today. So I'll kick it over to my panelists. Amanda, let's start with you. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, your role at Hirsh, and some of the types of roles you're typically trying to fill.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Amanda. It's nice to be here with you all. And I'm a recruitment manager for Hirsh Precision, and I'm responsible for running the systems and the processes that bring in new employees and retain them. And so I work with the hiring managers out of our various teams to identify where the workforce needs are and create the right job descriptions and put them in the right place and pre-screen and qualify candidates for them before bringing them in for interviews. Because we are a precision machine shop that supports aerospace and medical device OEMs in pretty highly regulated spaces, it's got a lot of various challenges trying to bring in both like the right volume and like quality candidates. And so Factory Fix has been a great partner for us. And so that's what I spend quite a bit of my time doing, is working inside Factory Fix to bring in the right talent.
Love that. Thank you for the intro, Amanda. Ashley, same question.
Hi, so I'm Ashley Vogel. I work at Innovative Machine Specialists. So we're also a custom job shop. So we do machining parts mostly for the food and beverage industry. So that's where we're a little bit different. So we have 2 facilities. We are looking for machinists. We're looking for welding fabricators, among other roles that we're trying to fill. And some of our competitors are, within walking distance. We like to remain as competitive as we can, and we use Factory Fix to help us do that.
Love it. So like you both mentioned, you are both Factory Fix customers. You're both hiring for roles where the talent pool is small, the competition is real, and the stakes, if you get it wrong, are pretty high. So before we get into what's working and where the wins have been in your process, I want to help paint the picture of what wasn't, because I think a lot of people in the audience today are probably in that situation where you were not that long ago. So Amanda, if you want to take us back to what hiring looked like before you made some changes to your process, maybe what the biggest bottlenecks were that you had to overcome, or some of the most challenging roles.
Sure. Really just high level. We did not have a super clear strategy. Some of that is just me coming into a role, because I was brought on as a marketing and communication specialist, and it just happened with some changes in the organization that I needed to also be able to fulfill some recruitment responsibilities. So we were struggling with a pretty vague strategy, and then also just not knowing where to put jobs. And the result was either we got way too few candidates or we got way too many of the like low quality candidates. And we also just struggled with, I would call it like market visibility, like where does Hirsh Precision sit in the landscape of people who are also hiring precision machinists, quality control inspectors, assembly professionals, things like that. So it was really just like a ton of guesswork and a lot of vague knowledge of who we are, who we're looking for, where do we go, and how to, and then also lengthy time to hires. So a lot of problems.
I think that many people in our audience will relate to that kind of vague strategy or kind of needing to nail it down. So I love that you shared that. And Ashley, same question. What was eating up the most of your time that you felt like it shouldn't have been, or kind of what's been the biggest impact since you've made those changes?
For me, I used to use a platform that most people have used. Everybody's using like ZipRecruiter, Indeed out there. And you'd get a ton of applicants, but you'd have to sort through all those applicants. You're looking for a skilled position, and you'd have somebody who would apply that maybe had only been in the food service industry. So no experience, no mechanical aptitude. So you'd have to sift through a pile of applications. Time spent going through all those. You're getting charged for every application. So you're not getting charged for quality applications. Sometimes the pricing metric would change as well. So that was always kind of frustrating as well. And then meanwhile, you're losing out on the candidates that you actually wanted because you had to sift through all the ones that didn't have the experience that you needed for that position. So that was really our frustration, is too much time spent reviewing applications that shouldn't have been received in the first place. And how do you focus on the applicants that have that experience that you want to get in the door sooner?
100%. I think that's a great segue. Let's talk about what changed, because one of the things that I found really interesting in our conversations leading up to today was how both of you started using labor market reports and labor market data differently, not just to understand like what's out there, but actually to make changes to the way you and your companies are operating and the way you're having conversations within your own organization around hiring and recruiting. And again, just to level set for folks in our audience, when we're talking about labor market data here, we're not just talking about like generic national stats. At Factory Fix, our labor market reports are built off of real hiring data, Census, Bureau of Economic Analysis, labor stats, job boards and feeds across skilled trades, roles, and candidates to give a really specific picture of what the market looks like. What is the pay by years of experience? What is the local talent supply and demand? Just simply like how many of them are there? And assuming an active job seeker rate of 10 to 15%, what are you looking with? And it even digs into roles that are producing graduates, for example, so that you are rather institutions producing graduates, so you're able to be first in line with local partnerships. So instead of guessing or relying on averages, it gives teams a much more grounded perspective on what's actually happening in their market. So let's get into it. Amanda, how are you using labor market reports today? And how has having access to that data changed your strategy and really like formed a strategy for your team?
Yeah, it's been a really helpful tool. And at first I thought it was going to be just this simple like fact check of our pay ranges competitive for where we are located in the US and the type of work that we do. But these reports are really in depth in that they tell you who your competition is. It totally changed my mindset on we're not competing with fellow machine shops in the Denver metro area. We're competing with our customers because plenty of these OEMs have in-house machining. So we have to be able to compete with those guys as well, which is a terrible irony. But it also helped us eliminate a lot of guesswork on like, where are we with the job descriptions that we already have out there. Now I know who I can go and reference as far as, how are they positioning this like level 3 machinist or this CNC programmer. And then it also helped with retention as well, to be able to look at our current staff and say, okay, these guys they have access to the same job boards and the same insights into what a particular position gets paid. And we want to be competitive and not lose our employees that we already have. So this helped me be able to have very objective conversations with leadership around where are we ranking with the roles that we want to fill, and then how are we doing with hanging on to our current workforce.
Love that. It's such a two-pronged approach. Retention is very much a part of the recruiting machine, not just bringing in new folks, but like you said, keeping the ones that you have. And I love the last part you mentioned where it's not just having the data, but implementing it and getting others on board is something else entirely. So Ashley, I would love to hear a similar question from you. How has having had access to that data changed internal conversations, or do you have an example of something concrete that changed because of your access to data?
Sure, absolutely. So for us, it was helpful for the same, reasons. We wanted to make sure that we're competitive. You can use it for retention, but also to see are other areas looking for the same position that we are. How likely are they to fill it? Supply and demand. We're looking, is there a different opportunity there then? If we're not likely to fill it based off of the data here, is there something we can do internally? So because of that information, we really started to look at other avenues. So not just posting positions here, but also we have great partnerships with area high schools. So we work closely with the youth apprenticeship program and started to kind of lean on that a little bit as well, but also while still maintaining the data, right? To make sure that we're still competitive, not just with attracting potential employees that may be working for our competitors close by, but also to make sure that the new hires we're bringing in fall into that same line with pay.
Love that. I think a big takeaway that I would love our audience to think about is just using that labor market data to inform decisions on those internal conversations. So great examples from our panelists here. Now that you've got better visibility into the market, so we have information on the supply and demand, information on what's competitive, and even, like you said, local schools that are producing graduates. We've built the partnerships. Now let's talk about what happens once candidates actually start coming in. Earlier, you had both mentioned it's sometimes not that volume is the problem, but rather being able to surface quality candidates from within the volume. Both of you went through a pretty significant shift in the way that you handle that initial screening. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit. Amanda, I'll kick it over to you to learn a little bit about how your process has changed. I know you've started to implement AI. What does AI handle today versus what you still own yourself, or anything else about your efficiency process?
Yeah. The AI has come a long way. It's really impressive how well it's able to screen and rank candidates and organize them and just help you prioritize your time. Because I think a lot of us are in the same boat that recruitment is like one of a couple hats that we wear in our job. So I don't have a full 40 hours per week to go through each candidate. So AI going through and reviewing resumes, having very intuitive conversations with candidates, and taking all of that information to tell me which ones I should go through and qualify for myself. And then other people that if I have time, maybe I come back to later. I probably don't though. And so, but I feel good about moving on. So just for example, we're looking for a manufacturing engineer right now. I have so many applicants to go through, and a lot of them are not the right fit, but I've been able to focus on maybe 10 candidates out of well over 100 and get them in the door a week after their application hit. And I would not have gone through nearly as fast if I didn't have AI screening them, and whether that's the active applicant or the passive applicant, because it's also having those conversations as well and getting them into the building.
Awesome. So it sounds like you're using it to expand the talent pool by reaching out to having it reach out to passive candidates, and also using it to accelerate the screening for intent, the screening for quality process up at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Ashley, same question for you. What has been a benefit of bringing in AI into your process? Or do you have any advice you would share for someone who's hesitant about bringing AI in?
Absolutely. I was one of those individuals that was hesitant. I really liked having my own hands in the recruiting process and getting to know the candidates that would come through. What I did learn through this whole process, though, is that you're behind the bus. You're not behind it, but you're driving the bus. any feature that you want to try out, you're able to do that, and you're able to adjust from there. For example, scheduling interviews, that is just so much easier using the AI portion of it. I can set the parameters of here's when I'm available, here's when I'd rather not have the interview. I'm confirming them. Yes, go ahead, please schedule. Confirm that it's a phone interview. All of that's taken care of. I'm still able to do all the other things that I need to get done in the day, but also making sure that that's streamlined so that I'm able to focus on those applicants that are coming through. The other thing is, it does help prioritize the applicants. And I think there's this fear or misconception that you have no say in how to rate applicants, but you do. You get to see like how they compare. You are setting the qualifications, and then you still get to decide, well, maybe this one rated lower, but you can still call them, interview them, go through the whole process. So it's just really, it's not taking anything away from you. It's helping you to be more efficient. It's helping you to streamline things and focus on areas where you'd like to put more time into. So I think it's a really great thing.
That's awesome. And I think it's good for people to remember that you can implement pieces at a time. You mentioned the automated interview scheduling as being able to get you connected to candidates faster, get things booked, free up more time for those conversations. So even just pulling it in one area, whether it's screening, like Amanda mentioned, I know you use that too, or getting those interviews booked, that faster screening process, like you both mentioned, it's not about cutting corners. It's really about getting to the right people before competitors do and enabling you to do those more human tasks of having the interviews, making the connections, and bringing people on board. Love that. We're coming close to the end of our time here. So thank you so far, Amanda and Ashley. This is exactly the type of conversation that we're hoping to hear. And I really appreciate both of you being so open about what your process looks like in the day-to-day and sharing that with our audience, as I'm sure many can relate and are getting great ideas as we go. I know it's easy to hear all of this and then kind of forget by the time you hop off the call or get to your inbox. So just as a quick recap of some of the details that we mentioned on this call, the market is scarce, right? The people you need many times are often employed. Tapping into a passive candidate market is an amazing help. And at 3.1% unemployment, the strategy cannot be to just wait for candidates to find you. If the strategy is still fully built around inbound applications, that is an awesome first thing to fix, or a great first lever that can have a huge impact on strategy. The second piece is that your local market is its own thing. What is happening nationally may not always tell the story of what you're up against in your own backyard. Knowing who else is hiring, knowing what they're paying and how fast they're moving is really the decision between decisions and guesswork. So utilize that local hiring information to create strategy. And next, we talked a little bit about screening and how good screening should really filter in rather than out. It helps you to get through candidates not only just faster, but getting to the right people. So being able to identify who has intent, who is responsive, who has the skills that you're looking for. And then with AI, especially as Ashley mentioned, it's not all or nothing. You don't have to overhaul the whole process. You can start with the part of your process that perhaps takes the most time, or something that requires little judgment, like scheduling. Here's the times that I'm available. And this is where it really earns its place and can start shifting your routine. And then we did talk about speed a little bit too, which I'll mention here as well, since you did both mention efficiency in your process, being able to get to your qualified candidates quickly. Speed is a competitive advantage if you're pointed toward the right candidates and with the right strategy. So for folks who are on the call today, if this conversation's been interesting, there's two things that you can do right now. For Factory Fix customers, if you haven't already requested a labor market report for your toughest open role, you are invited to log in, click the bar chart icon on the left nav bar, and go ahead and request a report. If you're new to Factory Fix or you're not a Factory Fix customer and you'd like a complimentary labor market report, you can drop in the job title and the city in the chat. There is a chat down here at the bottom, and we'll make a note of that. Or you can go ahead and send your request to marketing@factoryfix.com, and we will send a report over to you. So you can kick off the process of those internal conversations and building out your strategy.
Okay, so we had some questions that came through that we're just going to go through in the last couple minutes here. We mentioned a little bit about working with local schools and younger workers. How does that fit into your longer term hiring strategy?
Love that. Ashley, do you want to start with this?
Absolutely. So we have some great partnerships with area schools. So we connect with students that are interested in manufacturing, whether that's machining, welding, fabrication, engineering. Anytime there's a student that has an interest, we love to work with them. We invite them in for a job shadow so they can get a glimpse into what every day might be like. And then we work with those students in high schools. It helps us with when we look about succession and where we're at, filling some of those positions, but also having that continual pipeline. The great thing about the youth apprenticeship program, at least here, is that the students, still have the option of discovering if it is a good fit or not. So the more students that you're bringing in and exposing them to different things, the better chance and the continual pipeline that you have. So we really enjoy working with our students.
Love that so much. This is a topic dear to my heart. So Amanda, I'd actually love to hear your thoughts on this too, as I know you guys also do a lot of youth training and work.
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have some great local partners at the individual school level, but then also organizations that kind of layer in on top, and they're thinking really strategically about how they can develop their students to look at manufacturing as a career instead of other maybe more traditional paths. And I like to prioritize those relationships because, for one, they have more contact with the students than I do, and I want to support their efforts, but it's helped us get our own interns in the building. Some of them have been here for well over a year and they're doing great. I look at the local school partnership as kind of the long-term part of the strategy, and tools and partnerships like Factory Fix is the short term. Like the intern fix is rarely gonna meet like my machining need in the now, but I've had people follow up with me 2 or 3 years after taking a tour with their school saying they're ready to be a full-time employee. Had no clue that was coming. It's a great long-term benefit. So yeah, similar to Ashley, it's something that we really enjoy, and it's super beneficial for what we're trying to do.
Amazing. I love that framing of it as a long-term strategy, because it's an investment of your time, your resources of building that relationship, but it definitely pays dividends in the long term to have that long-term relationship. Love that. Gianna, what else you got for us?
Awesome. We'll do one more. How long did it take before you started seeing results after changing your process?
Yeah. Ashley, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. I would say probably right away. Once we changed our process, we're able to be more efficient. We are focusing more on quality applicants. You can be a bit more decisive about who you want to spend more time learning about. And that change obviously resulted in more positions being filled and just more candidates coming in. The other beauty of that too is that, say you filled a position, but you had the opportunity to focus on a couple candidates that really would have maybe potentially worked in that position or another one. So in that sense, it helped immediately as well, because there might not have been a position that was open at the time, but now I know that this candidate has some skills that I could use in another role that might be coming down the line here. So I would say probably right away.
I love that. And Amanda, I know you have, I'm thinking of a very specific instance of story, if you want to share that as well, of how your process changed.
Yeah, I think this unique challenge, a particular role, was the reason we became a Factory Fix employee. The role had been open for over a year. I want to say it was a quality engineer position, and we had a couple of candidates, but just totally the wrong fit. Couldn't seem to get it dialed, and I think it was in a trial that we posted quality engineer on the Factory Fix platform, and we also used labor market report data to change some stuff in the description, including pay range, and it got us a totally different looking pool of candidates. And we hired someone from that pool maybe 2 weeks after implementing Factory Fix.
Love that. And how long did it take you to feel like you had built out like your recruitment strategy? Because I know you also had like quite a big lift of getting that situated. You had some really awesome early wins, and I love that story of the adjustments and the timing. How long did it feel like before you had a recruitment strategy under your belt?
I want to say a couple of weeks, and I think that's because I wanted to take my time, and I finally had the right resources to inform what we needed to do. I think I like mapped out all of our roles that we had, the various levels that we had, and got labor market reports for every single role and just combed through it, did a bunch of outside research based off of the labor market report, and had a much clearer picture of who are we looking for, who is Hirsh in the conversation locally, and who are we, standing against, and how can we improve on our job descriptions, and also like the onboarding process, which a huge part of that is just candidate prioritizing and time to hire.